I am 100% convinced that you all know what this stunning piece of art portrays. Well, if you were unaware, what you're seeing here are some Space Marine Terminators. One of the greatest science fiction armour designs ever, and that is a fact. Feel free to go and check it out if you don't believe me. The artist of this piece is the famous John Blanche, one of the greatest Warhammer 40,000 artists of all time. This piece of art was used as the front cover for the very first Terminator boxed set back in the Rogue Trader era. I believe the code was RTB09, with RTB standing for Rogue Trader boxed set, and the 09 being the 9th version in the line. That boxed set is probably one of my favourite boxed sets of all time, for lots of reasons. The look of it, the contents of it, and the pure nostalgia factor of the memories of seeing it on the shelves. The Terminators featured here belong to the Blood Angels chapter of Space Marines. At the time of release, the Blood Angels were gearing up, as it were, to take over the poster boy cover art slot from the Crimson Fists. From around this point, most or if not all cover art of normal Marines were painted as Blood Angels, right up to the end of 2nd edition. As a kid, I felt the Blood Angels were everywhere, and to this day I find them to be much like the Manchester United of Space Marine chapters. Too popular to be cool, but these days I guess I don't mind them so much. The two Terminator officers, I believe to be a captain and sergeant, have interesting banners. Banners in this era are common, however these ones are a little different to the norm. The banner poles look like they're made from bamboo, and they're attached vertically up the pole, as opposed to hanging from the top like normal. Even though they're odd, both look bloody awesome. I've said it before and I'll say it again, we need to bring banners back. The Terminator's power fists, or power gloves as they were often called in the early days of Rogue Trader, all have wonderful hazard stripes painted on them. This was common in this era, and it's something again we don't see as much of anymore. I think the hazard stripes add a lovely bit of visual detail to an otherwise big bland hand. They can be tricky to paint however, and I can understand why people don't bother. The checks you can also see dotted about are even harder to paint. Now the Terminators appear to be hanging about in some sort of ruins in a jungle environment, a bit like where Indiana Jones runs away from that giant ball, an ancient temple or something. This one is a bit greener though, less cobwebs and more vines. It works really well with the orangey red of the Blood Angels armour. My name's Marcel, and this is Snakeworks. You know, I might borrow the look of those jungle ruins for our ongoing Anphelion project. In this scene of war from the 41st millennium, we can see some of the setting's most common naughty boys, the Orks and their Gretchen assistants or pets, or whatever they are to the Orks. Sadly, I'm unsure of who created this lovely piece, so if you know the artists, then please let us all know in the comments below. Nowadays, the Orks you all know and love are separated out into their different clans. Goths, Bad Moons and the likes. But back in the days of early Rogue Trader, the clans didn't exist. They were just Space Orks. I think the clans came along a year or two later with the Ork books. Wah the Orks, Here We Go, and there might have been another one that I've forgotten the name of. Due to the fog of war and the camera angle, we can't see exactly who it is these Ork lads are up against. It's an unknown assailant. If I was a betting man, I would say it's more than likely to be the Space Marines. Space Marines vs Orks was the ultimate showdown in the Rogue Trader era. The Orks are wearing lovely pointy helmets, not the sort Gandalf has. They're not wizards, oh no. These are spiky due to the horns poking out of them. Orks have had this style of hat right from the off, and still have some similar hats today. They probably even have a name, but I couldn't tell you what it is. I bet one of you guys know though. Also, I think the goblins in Labyrinth had helmets a lot like this, so I wonder if they were inspired by that movie. Do the dates add up? Our Orky lads are hanging about and therefore probably operating some sort of weapon emplacement, an artillery piece. It looks like a cannon. However, due to the big-headed monster face acting as the barrel, it has more of a chaos vibe. I'm sure a lot of chaos weapons have these facial barrels. It's interesting, and I like it. In the background, we can see a few pieces of either metallic debris or some more spiky looking jungle vines. We seem to have a jungle vine theme today, don't we? Another piece of inspiration for the jungle in our Anfelian project. One day, we will get around to doing some scenery for it. No dear. It would appear here our man has been shot. We can see a rather large bullet hole, a recent addition as it's still smoking. My old granddad used to smoke. He used to smoke players, and I wonder if they still exist. So in this wonderful piece, we're looking at what I believe to be a battle-damaged Space Marine. I don't know what artist is responsible for this, and there are no little signatures or logos for clues, so if you know, let us all know. We know the Marine probably isn't seriously wounded due to the thumbs up sign he's giving us. The last time I saw that was in the Top Gun movie posters where Tom Cruise is sitting in his little cockpit. I think they ripped it off for Turn and Burn on the SNES too. The SNES was one of the best systems of all time, but that's a conversation for another time. From the parts we can see, a Space Marine appears to be wearing Mark VI Corvus pattern armour. This isn't a surprise, given that at this time Mark VI was the only mark of Space Marine armour. The other marks hadn't been invented yet. It probably wasn't even called Mark VI at this point, just Space Marine armour, but I might have to look into that one. The cracked cratering pattern in the damage to the armour reminds me of that new Horus Heresy character miniature. Endred Har, I believe his name is, the Loyalist World Eater. The chap that goes on to form the Fangs of the Emperor. Word on the street is that he's a hard miniature to get a hold of and goes out of stock a lot, but I can't say I've checked myself. Now I've noticed that when Marines are wounded or damaged in the art, we don't often see the armour chipped or cratered. It's usually just a couple of bullet holes or a limb missing. I think seeing all the insides of the armour components and how it works is interesting. Maybe there's a reason we don't see this. Who knows? So I have a question. Why don't Space Marine kits come with some damaged armour options? A couple of crated shoulder pads would be quite good, I think. Or a damaged leg or arm or something. Battle damaged parts would be good. Now if you fancy coming to discuss Oldhammer art or battle damaged parts, then please feel free to come along and join our friendly Discord server, which is not behind a paywall. There's a link in the description below and one up here somewhere. We look forward to chatting to you there.
Come on lads, I think it's this way.
Okay, so what we have here is a lovely depiction of some men. 3 men on a spaceship. Isn't that the start of a joke? Now again, sadly I don't know who the original artist is, but there is what appears to be a signature or logo in the bottom right corner. If you know who that is, then please let us all know. Now these chaps, these gentlemen, I believe are just random spacemen, astronauts, mercenaries or pirates, perhaps even civilian contractors investigating signals due to some sort of company contract. I don't feel they are of the Imperial Guard or the Imperial Army as it was known at the time. The main man at the front of the picture has a ginormous helmet, an affliction I can identify with. His helmet reminds me of RC's head. RC was the pink and white Transformer from the 1986 movie. She has since reappeared in a few other Transformers lines, but her G1 incarnation was by far the best. Also, she might be getting a missing link figure, and if you know what that is, then please sound off in the comments. My gut tells me this little entourage are looking for something, on the hunt as it were. It would also appear our lead man has found what they're looking for, or at least a hint of where to go. I'm basing this off his fingering gesture. What's that old phrase? A picture tells 1,000 words. Now the weapon Kane is carrying at the front there, the pistol, is of an unknown design to me. I'm guessing it's probably an auto pistol or a las pistol, but to me it looks a bit like Han Solo's blaster. Was that the DL-44 or something? We had them in the Star Wars Battlefront games. They were good. Well, I thought so anyway. The figure in the middle is interesting. The gas mask and face mask combination makes him look a bit like Tali from Mass Effect. Or was it Tali? I've only ever played the first and second one, but never got around to playing the third. Is it worth playing? I remember people disliking the ending. Do you remember when there was a big deal about the romance scenes in the news? They're nothing compared to some of the stuff we see today. My hentai games make it look very tame in comparison. I'm only joking. I don't even know what a hentai is, and I think that's what chickens wear to work.
Wah! Get off me, you snaky bastard!
So what we have here is what I think to be an orc getting strangled by a something. Again, I have to apologise as I don't know who the artist is, but this time there's a signature S, which might be a clue. If you know, let us know. So I said this guy was an orc, but that might not actually be the case. I can't make out his face exactly, and although he does look a bit big and green, he may actually be a grumpy, stylised human. It might even be Panthro from Thundercats. Also, upon closer inspection, are those massive ears coming out of the side of his head? He looks a little bit Ferengi, if so. Now at first I thought our orky chap was being strangled by a big snake. And then I realised it's not a separate entity. His arm has become the snake that's strangling him, and his other arm has begun mutating into a whole bunch of snakes. I wonder what the reason of this is. A magic spell, warp trickery, or some sort of hallucinogen perhaps. The way the mutation is happening in a serpentine manner reminds me of the Hammerpede thing from the Prometheus movie. A movie a lot of people didn't like, but I thought was good. Not Alien and Aliens good, but still good. Also, everyone says that Hammerpede thing had a vagina for a face, but I couldn't really see it. Was it the wing things on the side or the mouth or something? Please, help me out. Now if you take a look at this gentleman's waist, you will see a rather large belt buckle there. This belt buckle has a face, and it reminds me a lot of the old bounty hunter character from the Generation 1 Transformer comics. I need to look up his name. Hold on. Ah, it was Death's Head. Can you remember him? Yes? Just above this guy's belt buckle is a big birthday badge. Sadly, I can't make out what the logo on it is. I think it might just be a random design. It does, however, remind me of the sod-off Potter badges they wore in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, or something to that effect. Go away, Potter. Potter stinks. That was it. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire was by far my favourite Harry Potter movie and book. I think it was really good. Now speaking of good, if you're enjoying this video then please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. That means you, Harry. If you are enjoying the content on this channel then please consider joining us on Patreon or becoming a channel member. There's a link in the description below or up here somewhere. Oh, I get the feeling this hurts. Our poor Marine has been hit multiple times by some sort of projectiles, bullets or possibly laser weapon fire. I'll let you guys decide which it is. What we have here is a Space Marine, or group of them, by Pete Knifton. Mr. Knifton is a great artist and is probably most well known for his Blood Bowl work, although all of it is very good. If you have a favourite piece of his, then please let us all know in the comments below. Seeing Space Marines getting shot at, destroyed or looking the worst for wear, and generally having their arses handed to them was a very common theme in the art of the Rogue Trader era. They were never having a good time. These days, the art is a lot more heroic. Even if a Marine is getting shot up, there's usually a lovely banner being waved next to him or a guy pointing at things with his sword. We don't have the same hopelessness anymore, and I feel we're missing it from the setting. The unfortunate Marine has been hit by multiple projectiles all at once. Do you think these are from different weapons or just one spraying out a lot of bullets? It's a little bit like that scene in the Predators trailer when all the red triangles appear on the guy's body. It didn't actually happen though in the movie from what I recall, or have I misremembered that? Again, I'm sure you're all aware that these Space Marines are wearing Mark VI Corvus pattern armour. A lot of people are big fans of the Mark VI pattern as it has that nostalgic retro vibe, and I count myself in with that group of people. What's interesting is that back in the day, I always found Mark VII power armour a bit boring, but now it's been replaced with Primaris armour in the setting as the new poster boy armour as it were. I have a new love for it. I find the Mark X Primaris armour very bland indeed, but that's just my opinion. Now if you take a look at the Marine's elbow, you can see the weird joint they used on the early Space Marine designs. I think it's most prevalent on the LE2 Marine that commands a high price on eBay these days. You can also see the same joint on the Marine's knees at the top of the boots. I'm hoping one day they'll bring this back for a character or something. What are your views on these old joints? Some wonderful artwork there. If you want to see some more Oldhammer themed artwork videos, then check out the playlist up here somewhere. And as always, thank you very much for watching.